Welcome everybody to my channel. Today's pick a card reading is looking at what are the really big ticket change items in your life. Where will big change be occurring over a relatively long period of time, over the next 6 to 12 months. So in the intention for this reading, I've asked Spirit to help focus in on the big ticket items that will affect your life path, your passions, your soul purpose, whatever Spirit feels are the big ticket items, as I say, for you over that period of time. And the inspiration for this reading came from me getting a new oracle deck, which is in fact the oracle deck you can see here. I got it. It's an independently created deck called the Animal Totems and the Ching deck by Brynja Magnusson. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. And it's a really fascinating deck, and I just want to say a couple of things about it before going into the reading, in case anybody here is a tarot and oracle reader or a collector and would like to know about the deck. Why I got it and why I want to use it for this is it's a beautiful blend of the I Ching, which is of course one of the most ancient divination systems known to the world. It's called the Book of Changes, hence why I'm looking at what big changes are coming for you in this reading. And it's an incredibly complex and interesting system because it really reflects life, in as much as the only constant really is change. And so the way that the I Ching operates, if you've had familiarity with it, you'll know is that there are different hexagrams that are created that then tell you where you are on a particular change journey, give advice when there are challenges, give support for building and leveraging when things are going well and going in the right direction, and so forth. So it's a very powerful and very life-reflective tool. So I've been looking for a deck with the I Ching that I could connect with, and what I loved about this deck is that then what Brynja has also done is she's connected it to animal totems from various native indigenous cultures, and so you get the blend of animal energy, animal totem energy that reflects the nature of the hexagram. So in a reading like this, you can know that animal energy is with you and supporting you, even if a hexagram is challenging. And it gives an added level of beauty and complexity to it. And there's a whole lot of other stuff in her system. It's very complex and beautiful and layered. You can get a book with it that gives a lot more detail on that. It's an amazing deck, an amazing system, and really inspirational. Really made me excited to be doing this reading. So I really just wanted to do a shout out on that because it's been the inspiration for that. So all the details for where you can get the deck and so forth will be in the description box below, as always, as I always do with all the decks that I use. But I just wanted to say that, firstly, to give an explanation of how this is going to be operating as a reading, because this will be the foundation that we'll then use tarot and other things for, and also just to say how excited I am to find a deck with the I Ching that's so beautifully married with other really strong spiritual connections. So I don't normally do a big rave about this. I will probably do some videos at some point around all the various decks that I have and so forth, but I just wanted to say that because it's such an interesting system and it's going to really give a great foundation for this reading. So having done that, hopefully you've stuck with me through that. You all probably know, if you're familiar with pick a card readings, what needs to be done at this point, which is choosing which pile you resonate to. So to help with that, I have an amethyst crystal on pile 1, I have a red jasper crystal on pile 2, and I have a lapis lazuli crystal on pile 3. You may feel drawn to more than one, and that's perfectly fine. That could be because there's different changes that suit you, because these are collective readings across a couple of readings. It could also be that you're not really sure how to choose between two, and when you hear the beginning of the reading and you see what the foundational energies are, you'll either know the first choice was right or you'll go to the second. So that's fine. You do you work out where you're drawn. When you do know which reading or readings you want to go to, as always, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. I thought when I did the intention for this reading that we'll probably go deep, because the I Ching is a very honest and very forthright sort of system, and I certainly wasn't wrong, because the combination of the energies here shows someone who is on a pathway to major spiritual development, but there are issues to deal with about maintaining the faith and finding the right spiritual connections to have in life, rather than maybe just following a creed or a system that you've been following for many years, or a teacher potentially who may be limiting you more than helping you. And there is a really strong sense here that getting back to nature and getting back to who you are and understanding all the various frequencies and the duality of nature in 3D helps you for ascension to something like 5D. So, and why I'm saying this, firstly, one of the cards that you've got is in fact not a hexagram. I didn't want to lengthen the introduction even further than I already did, but in this system there are 64 hexagrams. And then Brynja in her deck has done a number of other cards for animal totems reflecting other sorts of energies. And the way that I have thought in terms of the intent of using this is when one of those cards come up, as has for you here with the mole and faith, I want to look at it as an overarching longer term issue that you are dealing with. It's not really just about the next 6 to 12 months. There is certainly some major decisions to make over the next 6 to 12 months to get yourself on the right path for you and to be really confident and to reach your potential, because it does look like you've lost a little bit of faith. It does look like you're not really sure if you're on the right path anymore. And certainly with this card, you're meant to, if that was the other way around with Eagle, you're meant to be flying. You're meant to be reaching the zenith. You're meant to be there. There is a bit of a whiplash with that, with change, which I'll get to, but you are meant to be there. But because the mole over here is reversed, there is a sense that you're mistrusting. You're not really sure about what you're doing. You're not really sure if you should continue doing what you're doing now. This does feel very spiritual, but it could be for some of my pile one that it's something that you're doing in the material world that has a connection to who you are at a spirit level. So if it's not that you're following a spiritual pathway at the moment, it could be that you're doing something in your career or in a cause that you're following or something creative, or even you're in a relationship where you're losing some faith in it. And this card needs to, in a sense, turn around. You need to find what you can have faith with. And I feel that the earth, the turtle, the earth energy here, which is about innocence. The hexagram is about innocence. It's about connecting with the universe, with the elements and nature. It's about getting back to first principles, is the key. It's the thing that Spirit wants you to be focusing on. The turtle in mythology and sort of indigenous culture is very interesting. In the book around this deck, Brynja talks about the Iroquois culture and a story that they have about a sky goddess who fell to the water, and turtles sacrificed themselves in creating land for her to live on. So there is a really deep sense of the sacrifice that is necessary to create something in the material world, to bring your faith into the material world. And some of what you may have been sacrificing to date, pile one, is some of your freedom and your own choice. Because with the 55th hexagram, which is about freedom, and with the eagle being reversed, it's like you've fallen into victimization, subjugation, repression. It's like in trying to maintain that innocence and trying to live with the faith of what you do, there is something going on in your life at the moment which is stopping that. And I think for many of you, it's probably a person, someone you've looked up to, someone you've followed, someone who's a manager, if it's in a workplace. The interesting thing about this hexagram, and as I said, the I Ching is quite an unrelenting divination system in a way. When you hit the zenith, which would be the case if that was not reversed, it does say that the wise leader, because the I Ching is all about a leader and strategy and understanding the cycles of life. The wise leader understands when you reach a zenith, then there is a natural fall off. So that's a bit like the Wheel of Fortune. When we reach a particular level, we then have to kind of let things fall away, and then we have the new thing to develop towards and the new thing to build. So there is a sense here that there is something in you, And over the next 6 to 12 months, if you go back to the first principles of what was it that you were really trying to do, and earth that and ground that in a way, and go back to your faith rather than what other people are telling you, then you have a real capacity to build this thing that you're meant to be doing. This particular hexagram on a spiritual level is meant to be about going to a new dimensional level, a new frequency level. It's meant to be about evolution. But while you are caught by other people's views, or even if you've been in a situation where you felt victimized, you felt subjugated, you felt repressed, and you've gone into the victim mentality about it rather than trying to get yourself up into the air and also ground yourself. So there's an interesting double message here for you. If you've gone into that because you've lost faith in those around you, then I think the message around this is find those who are right for you. Find those who aren't suppressing you, and don't go into the victimization feeling of what's the point, nothing works out, the universe is dark, we're in the end times, whatever it might be. Think about how you can move out of that, how you can get inspiration and liberation and so forth. So I do think this period of time is about you restating to yourself what your beliefs are, or what it is that you're trying to create, or the relationships that you're in, whatever area of your life this is touching upon, and freeing yourself from old patterns, either of your own or the influence of others. I do feel for some people here, you're following a spiritual path or a spiritual person who maybe is not the right connection for you. They may mean well, they may not as well. So be aware about where sometimes highly charismatic people, if you scratch beneath the surface, can also be highly narcissistic. So make sure you go back to whether or not it's connecting to what you really believe, and that innocence, that sense of grounded reality that is part of you, which is why you were meant to be the eagle. So I knew this was going to be full on, as I say. I'm now going to have a look at tarot. So we're going to use tarot for each of these elements. So I think for this one it will be how to regain a animal totem, the mole, the faith that you're meant to have as part of your life, because there is something important in your life around what you believe in and living your truth. And then we'll see what are some of the energies around the changes that we see here. So let's see what's the tarot going to give us in terms of more information about what's going on here. I'm just going to move all those things up a little bit, pile one, so that we can see them all on the camera. So this is definitely saying that you're in some form of a power struggle. So it will depend on what aspect of your life it's in. I do think for many of you it may be in work, because we have the Emperor there, and the Knight of Pentacles, both of which can connect to a workplace. So I do think that Spirit is picking up for many people here. There is a need to really think about, are you in the right workplace? Are you working for the right manager? Would you be better off being your own boss potentially? If you've lost faith in yourself and doing that, then it's because you've been restricted. And Spirit is saying with the Devil reversed, if you could release yourself from that, so it has the same feeling to me of turning the eagle around and flying away. If you can release yourself from a power struggle that's operating, if it's not in your work, then there's still a power struggle, and it's having a really big effect on your being grounded, because if the Knight of Pentacles is not talking about work, it's talking about grounded energy, it's talking about commitment. And so the fact that we have the Devil reversed with the mole reversed as well, and then we have the sign of commitment, it is very hard for you to shift a belief structure. So I think Spirit is saying here, you need to look at it a different way to work out whether it's serving you and it's taking you to your point of mastery, because you're meant to be a leader in some way, pile one, in whatever this is. And if it's in a relationship, then there is something going on around power struggles, and your very commitment to something, it's part of your general nature, is making you subvert this faith energy, so that in a sense you're almost making excuses for the other person, or you're showing your commitment, or you're thinking, This is how you show that you love, but it's wearing away at how you see yourself because of the power issues. And you need at the very least to establish your power within the relationship. So whether it's work or romantic, but I do think for some of you, it's also spiritual. There is a spiritual path here. And with the devil reversed, it does suggest you've kind of gone in the wrong direction for some reason. And it doesn't, as I say, mean that the person is bad that you're around if you're following someone. It just means that there's something that's not quite the right connection. It's making you too reliant on someone else, I think, for spiritual guidance, when in actual fact, you're meant to come out with your own spiritual understanding, because somewhere in that innocence, in that grounding, you have a great deal of depth, and that eagle is meant to fly. You're meant to be ready to move up. Now, interestingly enough, so that's an overarching sense, because that's there. Part of your life purpose, pile one, is to understand and refine and build on your faith, whatever that is. But for some reason, more recently, you've just kind of been going through a dark night of the soul and not being really sure about it. And if it's creative, faith in your creativity, again, you've been going through that. This is promising a release, but you need to work out what to really commit yourself to and what is the control of other people that isn't valid to you. Over here, so we have the first of the change energies for the next 6 to 12 months. And this is about turning that around, really. This is about moving out of a sense of just being stuck and a victim of something, or disillusioned in general with things, to reclaim who you are and reclaim that sense of leadership. And Spirit is saying there is a lot of energy around for you once you make that decision, because the decision is about being prepared to have the debate or the argument or the shifting out of things that aren't working for you. And it's largely an intellectual decision to make, pile one. It's like if you sit down and you really think it through, you'll see where something isn't logical, something isn't working. So if it's around a faith system, you'll see that maybe there's an inconsistency. Maybe the person that you're following is hypocritical, for instance. If it's around a creative project, it may be that the person who's giving you advice, when you really look at it, it doesn't really help. It's not really making the piece of creativity move forward better. You're talking to the wrong person, so to speak. If it's in a relationship, then it's around looking where there are rules that have settled in the relationship that need to be released. And Spirit is saying they can be. Spirit is saying, in fact, once you decide to act with the Knight of Wands, so you move out of the Knight of Pentacles, which is loyal, grounded but loyal, and a slower moving energy, into a faster moving energy, you start to see that you take control of something and move forward. Now, always when the Knight of Wands comes up, there is a little bit of a warning about sometimes the Knight of Wands sort of acts and then thinks. I don't think you'll do that particularly here, because you have the Five of Swords reversed. You have a very good understanding, I think, of what has been limiting you and what is going to be a positive movement and what isn't. And you have the Chariot, which suggests that there's a lot of emotional energy around this. There's a lot of conflicting emotions. So whether it's in a relationship, it may be the battle within a relationship about an emotional dominance. It could be emotional responses between maybe a religious system that you followed for years and years and years and was in your family, but you know it's not right for you and you need to move forward. That you do understand that you have to balance a lot of that. But there's also a sense of destiny. Whenever the Chariot comes up, there is a sense of destiny about it. There is a sense of momentum. But that does require turning that energy around, not thinking there's nothing I can do about it, I'm just stuck. It's taking the decision not to be stuck and taking action in some way to free yourself so that you can become the eagle soaring, and you can then start to move and ascend spiritually, or in whatever area this is, bringing a better relationship in or improving the one you're in if it's not really bad but it just needs to be recalibrated. You need to take some control of this. It just looks like you got stuck and you felt like, what's the point? Things aren't working. And then if we go down here to what I think is really the change, which is recalibrating this faith, it's getting back to the innocence. It's getting back to that sense of what and who you are truly. I think that's sublimating the Knight of Pentacles energy. I think what is happening here is that Spirit is saying, when you are trying to look at what you believe in again and what you want to be loyal to, go back to that sense of innocence. and then that will look after itself. Focus there, because then you can take action and bring in the destiny that you have. So down here, we have a sense of a great deal of joy that can be brought to you by reconnecting with what really matters to you, creatively, spiritually, in terms of love and relationships. And in fact, if it is around a relationship, you will either move into one that is longer term, or you will, as I say, recalibrate what you're in, regain that sense of connection if it's been lost for some reason, by just taking the actions necessary to do it. But there's definitely a sense of a great deal of emotional fulfillment that comes from connecting to that. And the only thing that is blocking this at the moment, and I think it's what's reversing that, pile one, is that you feel like it's like you are too hard on yourself, or you move into a negative thinking space because your mind's very strong. You're moving into that. That's what's creating this being reversed, and that's what's blocking that. That's why Spirit is saying taking some actions, some real actions here that are your declaration of independence from whatever this is the key. That's why that one comes before that, because otherwise you'd think it's the other way around. But while that's going on, the Knight of Pentacles, getting back to being loyal to who you are and stopping nitpicking at yourself, because I feel like you're doing that. It's like, instead of going back to the innocence and the joy of relationships, spirituality, creativity, whatever it is, you're nitpicking at something, finding all the reasons why faith was a silly thing to have, why believing in people was foolish, why, oh, I won't get fooled again sort of feeling. But that's working against you, and it's taking away your courage. So getting back to what was the joy of this is what Spirit is saying is important. So it's a pretty consistent message. This is about who you are, who you really are, at a soul level, at a creative level, at a relationship level. You've lost sight of that somehow, but there is so much potential for you, particularly spiritually, but in any way, because if it's spiritual, it will permeate other parts of your life as well. You've just got to use that mind to work for you and release things and free yourself up and believe again, so that you can enjoy whatever this is talking about, and you regain the faith that way. So it's pretty full on. So I want to use some various oracles just for a bit more information. So this is the fact that we have this card here, as I say, shows that this is a core thing in your life. If it's not across your whole life, it's certainly over a good number of years. Mole is with you to help you have faith, to help you regain who you really are, and to help you bring back that innocence and eventually turn the eagle around to be free again. So I do think this is a longer term thing, but in terms of how long and so forth it might take to get through this, to get back to it and to recalibrate, I just want to use a deck that has some timing information. Now, of course, this may have a few things that are contradictory, and what that would mean is that different people who've come to this reading, it will take different times. But I just want to pull, say, 3 cards around timing to get a sense of what we're looking at here, beyond just the next 6 to 12 months. Okay, so I think that this is a timeless reading for when you'll be seeing it. For what I'm doing when I'm recording it at the moment, the interesting thing is that we're just coming to the end of July 2021 is when I'm recording this. So it's interesting that we've got both July and then in 11 to 12 months. This is a long-term thing. And I think with the out of time card there, it says that it's really, really important. That's why I had such a sense of urgency, I think, about this for you. You really need to do this work in that time frame. So if we're not in July when you're seeing this, if you see it in a September or a May or whatever it is, this process is probably going to take about 12 months, and you need to do it at that time. Otherwise, you're probably not going to be able to make that change. You've missed the opportunity, or you've embedded yourself so much in the sort of darker side of looking at things and feeling the lack of capacity to do it. Or you've tied yourself up so much with a leader that you should be the leader rather than them, that you can't move it through. So there is an urgency about this, but it's not got to be done in the next couple of days. There is time to do this. And I do feel that the order of doing it is connecting that to that quietening the critical voice and getting back to what you're loyal to, that what makes you happy, and then making some decisions incrementally, just one decision after another, expressing your truth, whatever it might be, that gets you there. That gets you out of the battle and into the heart. So, speaking of the heart, let's ask another oracle the sort of feelings that you're going to go through in this time period and as you go through the change. Okay, so this is, as I say, I don't want to sugarcoat this. This is a significant change. Anybody who's come to this reading is significant. It's not necessarily easy. Having said that, you are operating on the fact that there is something in you that is not happy with who you are and how you're being. And this says, I will rise. So I think that's a very strong connection to the eagle. You will do it. You will do it. And because you're feeling pressured, I think, by others, you will remove the emotional blocks. That's getting back to the innocence. That's becoming committed again to what makes you happy. But during this process, you'll also feel tense. It says breathe, release, repeat. That gives me that sense of the incremental. Make one choice, make one choice, make one choice. I do think for many of my Pile 1, if you don't do it already, some form of meditation will help you as well. Whether it's sort of breath work meditation, if that works for you, so very literally breathe, release, repeat, or whether it's listening to music, whether it's getting out into nature, which could be very much what the turtle energy, the turtle totem is trying to get you to do. But it's not an easy period. I wish I could say to you this is going to be easy, but it's got so much potential, Pile 1, and I do think that you will move through it. I think you're very, very aware that you need to do this at the moment. So I want to ask what support from nature you're getting using a particular oracle that connects to trees. So I want to see what energy nature can give you along with turtles. Very sort of supportive, slow moving but supportive energy. Okay, so it's interesting. We've got judgment and beliefs and expectations. This is saying it over and over and over. If you don't resonate to the concept that you are really looking at what you believe, what your foundational beliefs about, whatever this is, relationship, spirituality, creativity, if that doesn't, then this is probably not the right reading, and go and look at another one, because it is so strong. This message is saying that you are coming into a position where you can make the judgment you need to make. And sometimes you're going to have to judge, and sometimes it's going to be, it may feel a bit harsh. I think you're a very kind person and a very loyal person. It's very hard for you. If this is about relationships that aren't working, if it's about a spiritual leader that isn't really the right one for you, it's hard for you to do that. But sometimes you have to judge. Judgment is not always a bad thing. Sometimes you need to do it to just be true to yourself. And your beliefs and expectations at the moment around something are not being met. And that's, if you get to the core of that and you start to work that out and you start to look at the compromises you've made and whether they help or not, you stop making all the compromises down here thinking it's your fault, because it's not. If you start to go back to what your beliefs and expectations are and whether they're being met in the situation that you're in, that will really ground you. And again, that sense of be in nature, be back to the innocence of what you're doing. So I want to finish up with a couple of other oracles to just give a little bit more guidance or information. The first is just a general oracle that may give some advice about ways of thinking or approaches to take. Okay, so this is saying, this is, I think, some very good news. I think it's saying there are opportunities coming for you to find the right people, to find the right approach, to get back to what you do and to take those opportunities. I think it's also picking up the thing of do the work in this period of time. It will really pay off. Don't lose that opportunity. And again, we've got the opportunity with an eye, a clarity, seeing with nature. So again, there's a sense of getting back to your true nature, getting into nature, meditating in nature. The opportunities are coming to you. If you feel stuck because of very pragmatic, worldly things, there are opportunities coming for you, and you will appreciate that. There is an appreciation of that, of bringing that energy in. I think somewhere in this period of time, probably no later than halfway through the period of change, those opportunities will have come into being and you will appreciate that you're doing the right thing. I also think it will bring more appreciation to you. People will appreciate you because you're not meant to be the follower in this. You're really not, but I think you've got yourself in that pattern. So last but not least, I want to pull one card from another oracle for what sign, spirit, and the animal totems may be sending you. So what eagle will be sending you when you've started to free yourself, what turtle will be sending you to bring you back to that innocence and joy, and spirit more generally, your guides, so that you know that you're on the right path. And even if it is a bit hard, and it does look like it will be a little bit hard, pile one, even if it is, you're heading in the right direction. Now that's a really lovely sign for you too. I think that's a very comforting sign. I think that you will start to see rainbows literally. I think you will also have that sense, that imagery. You may come across reading about them. You may see them in artwork and pictures. You may also just see things that are very, very colourful, that have the spectrum of the rainbow. It's all going to be signs that you're heading in the right direction. And how lovely that the rainbow is there above nature. So it's getting back to that again. There is something really deep in you, pile one, I have to say, very, very deep. And it is spiritual, and it may then manifest itself as a spiritual outcome, but it may manifest as something else: creativity, work, relationships. There's something very deep, and for some reason you've buried it. But this is time to unearth it. This is time to bring back the colour to the sky and the colour to your life. And I think there are great opportunities for you to do it, but you do need to recognise how much you've given up your freedom and your sense of faith to others. And when you take that back, everything turns around for you. So I hope that that was helpful. I know that's a heavy sort of message, but I really think there's so much potential for you spiritually and more broadly, that it was important for those that this resonates to, that you heard this message. And I hope that it is helpful. I hope that you also enjoyed the reading as much as you can when it's that heavy. And if so, please like the video. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, because I'd love to see you in future readings. And if you have any comments on this, I'd love to hear about that and interact with you as well too. So if you have a moment, please put in a comment below as well. Beyond that, I hope to see you again soon. Welcome, pile two. So these three cards are from the I Ching and Animal Totems deck, and as I say, they're picking up major changes over the next 6 to 12 months for you, and there is a real connection between these. What this is showing me, particularly with these first two, and then to some degree with this as well, is that my pile two are moving into some sort of position of leadership, control, mastery, in some aspect of their life. I think for many of you this will be in work or in a political environment or a social or community environment, because the first of the change energies for you is moving into a position literally of dominance. The animal totem for it is the gorilla, and pictured here is the silverback gorilla, which is the leader of the gorilla pack. So this is all about gathering other people together, bringing people together in some way, or moving into a position where you have people working for you. I think in a workplace, this is somebody moving up the ladder. So in the next 6 to 12 months, I think you will have an opportunity, or you may already have just taken that opportunity on. The key energies for here, the things that will make this change process good, is to use a judicious approach, to be magnanimous and gentle, and to take a central approach that works with people rather than just telling them what to do. Because you can move into a position hierarchically, but to have people follow you and to really bring together what you're trying to achieve, you need to bring people's hearts and minds with you. So communities, workplaces, friendship circles, whatever it might be, people will follow a leader, but only if they feel that that leader is serving the greater purpose of the community. This card and this hexagram has a feeling a bit about like a king or a queen, and the energy for that, if you think about it, is that when kings or queens take that role, yes, they have a hierarchical position, but they are also there ultimately to serve the country that they rule over. So it's not just about rulership, it's about service. There's a concept in HR and in organisational and leadership development which is called servant leadership. So it's the concept that you exist to serve others as a leader or a manager in some way. So there's definitely a sense here about moving into a position of more leadership in one way or the other. And the promise of this is that you can really move forward with this and have success if you understand those dynamics, that you don't sort of get caught up in politics. Now, the interesting thing is we also have hexagram 54, which is the working one, and the animal totem for it is the beaver. So that's about getting on with things, doing things, building things, achievement, drive. So again, it looks as though you've had the drive to get there, but a lot of it has been about being someone within the group, doing work. And now there is this energy to move into a more leadership position. That can be a tricky move. If you are in an organisation and you're moving from being part of a team to being the team lead, sometimes just doing that transition and changing what you're doing and making it less about just the productivity and more about leading and helping and supporting others is a big shift. So I do think that many of pile 2 here will be making that type of a shift in a career, in a community group, even in your friendship circle in some way. And so part of the change process is understanding that and understanding you can continue with this energy of working and building, but it's in a different frame. So these two things work very strongly together. Then we have the hexagram 24, which is about return, and it's about taking time out, but it's reversed. So I think what this is saying is that you need to keep working, keep moving. Don't sort of feel, if you've sort of got to this point, that you can rest on your laurels or just delegate everything to everybody, because that's not going to give the sense with the people that you've moved above that you're a servant leader, for instance. There is a real sense of energy and dynamism. You may have felt, oh, I've reached a pinnacle in the next 6 to 12 months, but that's only one, and there's more to come. You have more in you and there is further to go. So having said that, part of the reason that the salmon is used around taking a bit of time out, being flexible, is exactly for that, to be flexible, to move with the flow, to not feel you have to have every answer. If you remember what it was like to be in a position of creation as opposed to a position of leadership, then liberating the people who are working for you or working with you to create helps that flow. So otherwise you can get caught in old patterns, because when it's reversed, we've got looping, habits and fixation. There is a little bit of a warning here going through these change processes for pile 2. If you are moving into a different role or a different approach, that you may try to do exactly what you did in the last role, and that's not what you're meant to do, and that's not going to take you forward. So that concept that something has got you to this next level, but now it requires something different from you. And I do think with most of you, this is around work or creativity or politics or community in some way. If it's around relationships, then you're moving into a position, a different type of relationship, I think. One where maybe it's power couple type of stuff, and knowing that that requires a different dynamic, but it still requires the dedication of the beaver is potentially there, if that's what resonates more. So let's have a look at some tarot for each of these, just to get a little bit more information about each of these change processes that we're seeing, which are all connected. The change around what you're doing in the world, the capacity to be flexible and move upwards in some direction. Let's see what tarot can give us. Okay, huge energy around this step upwards. When we've got an Ace of Wands and an Ace of Cups together, I have no doubt there is, if you aren't already moving into a new position or a new opportunity that you will be a leader in, you will be in this time period. And you want to be. You've had a degree of frustration for some time. You feel like someone who's had wonderful ideas, but you haven't necessarily been in the position to make the decisions. You're moving into an opportunity to make those decisions and start to give birth to your creative vision and also what matters to your heart. So there's definitely a sense that this step up is going to allow you to put in place a vision that you have. And that looks like it relieves a lot of frustration that you've had today. Again, I get the sense that a lot of this is around work, that you've maybe been working for someone before who didn't get you, but you're now moving into a role where you lead people and you can bring people along with you. That's a double blessing to get two aces together. You are meant to be in a leadership position, and Spirit is supporting you. The animal totem of the gorilla there is supporting you, giving you that leadership potential and taking you out of a frustration that you've been in. So I think that part of the change, on its face, it's very welcome to you, and you get an uprush of energy. The challenge, I think, is around these two, and that was kind of obvious in a way. So in moving from where you are to a next level in whatever this is, there's drama around it of some sort. You know, you're very happy to be doing it, and by and large, say you are moving into a manager position, most of your team are very happy, and they're very happy with the fact that it's happened. But there are some people, maybe people who were competing with you for the role, maybe some people who think they should be the leader, maybe even that you're moving to a point where you've almost run under the radar to some extent, and now you've moved to a level where politics is hitting in more and you're having to deal with that kind of thing. There is some drama around it, but Spirit is saying here that concentrating on serving the people that are working with you and your creative vision and bringing them along with it helps you to dispel the battles and the drama. It's like you can kind of almost snuff it out. I do feel for most of you, if this is in your career, that there are people more senior to you who really back you and really see what you bring to the table. So as long as you keep the team moving well, then that's going to snuff out any of this other rubbish. But there will be some stuff like that. There will be some people, and there could be some in your team who leave because they felt they should have been the manager and that kind of thing. So there's definitely that sense around it. If this is not about your career, if it's in a community environment, a political environment, same thing. There's a lot of hot air being blown by certain people around this, but it's because of jealousy, and you just stay focused on those who are with you, and that looks good. Now, in terms of the flexibility, it is saying you need to think about this. We have the Hanged Man reversed. So the Hanged Man is really, well, firstly, it can be about delay. So the fact that it's reversed, I think it's showing that any blockage is going to be removed in this period of time. If you aren't already in this sort of position in whatever thing it is in, then you're going to be. So that blockage is being reversed. But it's almost like there's a bargain with the universe with the Hanged Man. And when something like that occurs, when the Spirit comes in and helps you get to where you need to be, it's almost like in a bargain, you also need to rethink your beliefs about things and your approach to things. So be like the salmon, but it's a little bit hard for you to do because it's reversed. So this is going to be your challenge. The real challenge around all of this is being flexible enough to really bring all of this into being. What is going to help you is you're a naturally very empathic person. We have the King of Cups here. You're somebody who really understands people. It's why you're a born leader. You are a born servant leader, to be honest, which is a wonderful thing. So I think you will find as you sort of go through leadership roles that many, many people want to be with you, work with you, collaborate with you, because you really get people, and you can turn around exhaustion really well. You can get people to sort of release their energy and move through. I do think it's a highly contested area. I do think many of you may be in a political or social or community organisation or party or something like that. So there is a lot of energy around this, a lot of debate, a lot of drama, but in the centre of it you seem very still. It's just that you need to really understand the difference of the role that you're in and what that means, and how you now use your empathy in a different way. And if you do that, that looks really powerful. So I want to use an oracle that looks at timing. So this is timing beyond just the 6 to 12 months. It may just encapsulate that and confirm that is the timing, but it may also show that certain things will go very quickly. So I just want to get a sense of some of the timing around this change, this evolution for you, I think, in terms of taking on a true leadership role in whatever way this resonates. I should say too, for some of you, if this is about relationship, if it is around the new power couple or whatever, there is that double blessing there. There's a kind of real sense of that, and your capacity to empathise and understand and see that will be really important. But then there's lots of gossip and and other types of white noise around it. So don't be surprised if that happens, but stay true to what you do. It's just white noise. It doesn't have to bother you. So Spirit, I'm refocusing back on the issue of timing for pile 2. Okay, so we've got June and July now. At the moment, I'm recording this near the end of July. It doesn't mean that that's when you're going to see it. So partly you might see it when it's published, and it might be into August by then potentially, depending upon my publishing schedule. It may also be that it's saying that wherever you are at the moment, whenever you're seeing this, June or July are going to be pivotal points. If they are coming up soon, then I would suggest that's when you're really starting to move into this and understand it. If they are quite a long time away in the 6 to 12 months, then I think that's saying when you really start to get in the groove of this and you really start to work with your leadership. It is also saying time after time. That's what I felt right at the beginning. You'll remember I said that I think this is the beginning of something for you. This is a step up, and it's not going to be the end of it. It's like the first mountain, and there are other mountains after that. You are meant to rise. So this is a process you need to learn and be comfortable with, because each time you move up, you're going to find the role and the requirements are different for you. And that's in anything. If this is creative, then the first time you get a viral video or you get a book selling, in the bestseller list or whatever, it's the beginning of a career. So this is the beginning of a cycle. That's why it's very important to be flexible and to sort of move with the salmon energy, to turn that around and get the salmon energy working for you. So while all this is happening, I want to ask Spirit to give me some idea about what you'll be feeling as you go through all of this. Okay, this, I have to say, very much fits with people moving up the ladder as well too. So I'm speaking here from years and years and years of human resources and organisational leadership work. You do have a combination of things when you move up in whatever it is. There is often a feeling of pressure, and this is saying remove emotional blocks. What I like is that as long as you look differently, as long as you take the advice of the hanged man there and move into your empathy, I think you can empathise with yourself and understand yourself and remove the blocks, and don't listen to all the white noise and the jealousy. Just kind of let it go. But you may feel insecure at some time. You may think you have to be perfect, and this says I embrace my imperfections. You don't have to be perfect. When you move up in an organisation, for instance, networking with people at your level who can tell you about the change and how they did it, understanding that we're all human, we don't suddenly become superhuman when we move up the ladder, allows you to work with it and manage it, because as I say, this is the beginning of a longer term journey for you. If you move into curiosity, you follow your intuition and you say, this is a new experience for me. I want to think differently. I want to feel differently. I want to really build something new with that double blessing of the double ace. Then you're going to move through it easier. But don't be too hard on yourself. There will be a sense of pressure. Sometimes you won't feel like you know everything yet. You don't have to know everything yet. And you will find the support and the help for you if you are just open to that. So let's ask Spirit for a little bit more advice around that support, things to help you not feel that you have to be perfect from day one, and not to feel too pressured by some of the white noise, as I say, that's going to be around this. Okay, this is very much the new leader energy. This is very, very clear. Firstly, be present. One of the main things that you need to do as a leader and working with people is to be present with them. And if you're present with them, you'll also be present with yourself. So mindfulness, understanding the emotions that you're going through, understanding and giving yourself some slack for learning as you go along, and being present in the moment is going to be really important. And authenticity. I believe you are naturally very authentic. I think you are a servant leader, as I say. I think that's why this is coming for you, why these opportunities will come, and also why it's not going to be the last of them. But remembering that, and that's part of insecurity. You don't always have to be right. You don't always have to be perfect. As long as you're authentic and you own both your strengths and your weaknesses, and you learn from something and you move on and you move up. That's all that any of us can do, and that shows authenticity. The leader that can say, you know what, I didn't read that right, and I'm listening now to some other people in my team, and now we're sort of recalibrating, is a leader that gets an enormous amount of loyalty from their team, that they're saying, I'm human too. I have a role and I will do that role and I will do it with authenticity, but I'm not pretending that that means I'm better than you. I'm one of you. I just have a different level of responsibility. So I want to ask for some other advice or signs for you going through this period from another oracle. So we've got release where it said pressures, and then we've got pressure where we've got insecurity. It's saying, yeah, you just need to get off your own back. When this happens, and particularly if people are trying to sort of look for the mistake or whatever, that doesn't matter. You'll get people following you. You just need to release the pressure, move into that curious space rather than into the I must be perfect. So it's saying it over and over. When you move into this, Gorilla will be giving you the natural leadership, and you've already got the capacity to do the work. That's already there. So it's just looking at this differently, understanding leadership differently will help you. So I'm going to close out with just asking Spirit for what is a sign that the animal totems might be sending you, or Spirit, your spirit guides might be sending you, that you're on the right path, that you're heading towards this change in the way that you were sort of destined and meant to do. That really fits, juggler. So this is part of the pressure. Part of the thing about having a higher level of responsibility in whatever this is you do have to juggle a lot of things. So if you're feeling like you're juggling things, then you're in the zone. You're actually where you need to be. You're moving through this. You're understanding the new role. You may literally see people juggling. You might read about jugglers. You might see that term a lot. You might see videos that have it. So there's signs around that saying, yes, the universe understands. The universe sees where you're at. It understands what you're dealing with. The other thing that I think is interesting is that that's covering curiosity. So I think that there is something enchanting and entertaining and curious about the capacity to juggle things. So again, if you get into that energy of, gee, this is fun, I'm learning a new skill, I'm learning a new way of doing things, and you take it on that level, then you will also find this becomes more easy for you. So pile 2, you're meant to be a leader in some form. I think for many of you it's at work. Your time is coming, your destiny is coming, but you do need to change some of your ways of looking at things so that you can embrace that new role. And I think if you do, then everything moves forward really, really positively for you. So I hope that that resonates for you, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. And if so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I'd love to hear about it in the comments below if this does resonate and you know what it's about. Be really interested to see and to know that you're owning your leadership. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. I did think when I did the intention of this reading that we would go deep, and this is definitely the way the readings are going, and certainly your reading fits into that category, because I think that Spirit and the animal totems here want to talk to you about getting into healthier relationships and getting into a stronger sense of your own sovereignty and your own inspiration and your own skill. Now, the reasons that I'm saying that, firstly, the first hexagram here is 16, which is about enthusiasm, and it's about loyalty. And when it's the right way up with the dog, it's about connecting with others, dedication to what you're doing, learning what you do, having support around you. When it's reversed, however, you are in a situation where others may take advantage of you. Others may require you to do certain things you don't want to do, and you become dependent on them. At its very worst, you feel enslaved to other people's requirements and wishes. It's an interesting card to get reversed because, of course, the dog as a animal totem is a very loyal and helpful friend. When reversed, it does suggest that some of the people in your life who are friends in one way or another, and that could be friendships, it could be lovers, it could even be family members who operate more like friends, are perhaps not serving your growth and your development in the way that you would want. It could be for some, for instance, as an example, that you are at the point that you are for instance, doing higher education, and you are being required to do what your family wants you to do rather than what you would want to do. You are being required to develop a skill that is not true to your heart. It is true to what other people want from you. And this is very much saying with the wolf over here, which if we think about the classic thing that we talk about, the lone wolf, this is called the hexagram 3, which is difficulty at the beginning. And that's about learning to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and to only connect to those that are the right connections for you. And they call it difficulty at the beginning because it replicates birth, the first opening of ideas and so forth, where there are usually struggles to really work out what is true and authentic and what you can develop. If you think about in tarot that the ace has a blessing about a beginning, but it is also then followed by the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5. There are steps in that sequence that are about working out what really works, refining it, and it's not always easy. They're not always easy to go through. So this hexagram has a similar feeling to it, but with the wolf can be in a tribe, can be with a group, but can also stand on their own 2 feet. And so there is a very strong sense here that you are maybe giving your loyalty to the wrong people, and you may need to be free of that and to start to develop who you really want to be, whether it's in skills, education, career, creativity, spirituality, whatever it is. You may have to stand a little bit alone. There's also a sense around you at the moment that some of the people that you're with may not be wise to talk to or be open with. When this particular hexagram is reversed, it talks about oversharing. It can be cycles of patterns of behavior, sort of trying to find the people that you connect with rather than standing on your own 2 feet is kind of connecting you back over and over to the wrong people, that once you've actually worked out who you really want to be, then you can bring the right tribe to yourself. But this particular hexagram is called Following with Men. It's hexagram 13, and it's called in this deck the Secret Keeper, and it has the links. So that sense of being able to keep secrets, being able to sort of move through situations and change while keeping things to yourself, and being able to be in solitude. But because it's reversed, it's not easy for you. This does say that the hardest change you need to go through, but the most important one at the moment, is looking at the people around you and who are right to be with you and who aren't. It doesn't necessarily mean, Pile 3, that the people around you mean you harm. It's just that they're not necessarily the right people. And it may be only in one aspect of your life, or it might be across all aspects of your life. So it could be in friendships face-to-face, it could be online communities that you're in, it could be the workplace that you're in at the moment and you're loyal to it, but it's not returning what you need. There's something like that. The change that Spirit and the animal totems want to support you with is to make you a little less loyal and a little less the person that everybody else can rely on, and be more the person that you can rely on. So the thing about this, I have to say, is that this only happens to people who are very good people and very loyal and very caring people. But as I say, that can sometimes be exploited if you aren't with people like yourself. So let's use tarot to get a little bit more information about each aspect of these change processes for you, Pile 3. Okay, so this is definitely saying up here that you aren't necessarily in relationships at the moment that are giving to you as much as you're giving. There is an imbalance here. People look to you for support, whether it's material support, whether it's just loyalty and being there for them, whatever it might be. But the energy is not returned. And it does look as though whatever environment this is in, there's a lot of sort of debate and there's not a particularly happy group. So it's maybe a group of friends that are more like frenemies, or it could be in a workplace. It's a workplace where the team is not working together well. There's something like that. Family, there could be family disputes. And it's about reciprocity and it's about who supports who. But you're meant to always be this loyal, strong person who keeps the home fires burning. This literally could be for someone who is a parent in a family with your children, and they're all arguing with each other, and you're meant to always find the outcome. But obviously in that case you can't walk away from the situation, but you do need to understand that maybe you need to push some of the responsibility for some of this drama back to the other family members. Obviously if it's young children you probably couldn't, but if it was older or adult children, then you could. So there's definitely a sense that your sense of loyalty and your sense of stability gets exploited, whether it is meant to or not. Now, I often say, particularly when I see the Six of Pentacles reversed, in relationships, rules of relationships settle really early. So if you tend to be the sort of person who makes friends with people by supporting them, by being the shoulder to cry on, and all of those sort of things, sometimes completely unconsciously that becomes what the relationship is. And it can be very hard. There can be a pushback when you need the support. So have a think about that too. Are there patterns? And then remember the patterns that are down here that you create unconsciously in others as well as in yourself. I'm sorry, part 3, I just stopped very briefly there. I'm not sure if it was obvious. It was because a garbage truck was pulling up outside, so I didn't want that noise in the middle of all of this. You may hear a little bit of it in the background, but it is driving away. So as I say, I think that there could be patterns that you create unconsciously and also unconsciously in others. So it doesn't necessarily mean people are being malicious around you, though for some of you, when this card is there with the links reversed, the secret keeper reversed, there could be things like gossip. There could be things, that's why I'm saying there's a frenemy energy around some of this. So be aware of that if that resonates. Over here, in moving into being the lone wolf and then potentially the wolf that finds their tribe, there's a great opportunity here. There's a new way of looking at things, a new way of thinking about things. And you are getting it on 2 levels. You're actually very psychic. You get a lot intuitively. It's part of the reason, I think, actually why people end up coming to you and relying on you. And you're seen as sort of someone like that, but getting that balance is important. So listen to your gut, listen to your instincts, and then process it through your mind around how you're rethinking about your life. That frees you, because it's the way you've been thinking about your life and what you're required to do that is the thing that bound you up in the first place. But listening to your intuition and thinking differently about it and being prepared. I mean, it's interesting, we've got a wolf again there, the wolf's howling to the moon. And then we've got the Ace of Swords, which is a new way of thinking in a sense of being on your own and so forth. That is how you free yourself. So there's definitely support for you. The wolf energy is very strong for you. I would actually, if I were you, look up things about wolves as symbols, because I think it's a very, very strong totem for you. Down here, there's something for some of you that is not fair, that is not right. I get over and over this sense of frenemies or gossip or that kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily mean it's even gossip about you, but it's that kind of energy, and things are not balanced. At the very least, they're not balanced, and you keep getting in this cycle because you're such a caring person. But there is the opportunity coming in for a new way of relating to people. For the Page of Cups, I think that's picking up the energy up here after you've got the Ace of Swords and you're thinking differently about it. But it's breaking old patterns. These patterns have been with you since childhood, I think. I think in your family, you were probably someone who was the stable point in a rather dramatic family. I think for some of you, this is about family still. So some of it's very deep. The patterning that you were given very early in the piece about the fact that you were there for the collective, you were there to consider others, but possibly that abrogated the responsibility of everybody else to consider you. Those sort of patterns set in place. Again, not always from any bad place. It's usually from an unconscious place. But once you bring that up consciously, you won't get caught in that again. You won't put up with it again, and you escape some of those things. But it is important to recognize them. Even if it's a bit painful, I think you can recognize it without thinking the other people meant harm. I think for the most part, you're not in a situation where people mean harm. There could be a few people, for some of you that come here, that you go, oh no, I know who this is and I know what you're talking about. And if that's the case, fine, then you know that something unjust is happening. But I think for most, it's more a pattern, and you've co-created it unconsciously because you're a lovely person. But a lovely person deserves to have their tribe of other lovely people. So let's have a look at some timing around this for you. If you have this aha moment, you start to recalibrate what your relationships are, and maybe you spend a bit of time on your own away from whatever milieu this is in. what's the sort of timing to bring you through that change and bring you to that wolf energy in particular? Okay, this is saying this is a cycle. This is something that will have probably a relatively short-term first step of it, where you'll really know you're getting into the stride in 1 to 2 months. We've also got June, depending upon when you're listening to this, that might be within 1 to 2 months, or it might be saying there's a longer term space from that you go to the next step of it. But June is important in some way. There may be new friends or new opportunities or new love coming into your life in the month of June. And then it also says in 4 to 5 years. So I think what this is saying, that you make the step to understand who you are, that June in some year is important, but in 4 to 5 years you won't know yourself. You're going to be not the lone wolf, but the wolf with the wolf pack. You're going to have gone through this and shifted this and found what you needed to find. And it's not to say that it's literally going to take that long. It's just that in 4 to 5 years, you're going to look back and see how much you really shifted and broke these old patterns and how well you've done with it. So let's look at this in terms of the next 6 to 12 months, which is what the reading was for. And in particular, this next 1 to 2 months, because obviously there's a little bit of a step in the right direction quickly with this. And ask Spirit to show us what feelings you'll need to address and go through, both positive or negative, in this period of time. Okay, so this looks like energy that would make sense. Firstly, I'm going to go over here, lost, I will find my own way. There will be times going through this where you do feel like I'm a bit unanchored, I am a bit lost, am I doing the right thing? But remembering that you are moving into who you are as a precursor step to find your tribe and then eventually go through that whole evolution of your life and your relationships in general. Remember that you will find your own way. When you're feeling lost, that's the difficulty at the beginning. The difficulty at the beginning hexagram is sort of order out of chaos. You have to have the chaos to then get the order. So sometimes in the middle of chaos we feel lost, but you will be fine. You'll be surprised, in fact, about how much you start to enjoy it and how quickly it moves. So I think that's connecting to that. And ultimately, in 4 to 5 years, you will be really surprised when you look back and see how far you've come. But sometimes you're going to be tempted to go back into old patterns. So remember, you're stronger than you think. If you come across new people and you feel like going into that pattern of being the person who supports them and saves them from themselves right from the beginning, you're replicating that pattern. Step away from that. It's not required that you look after everybody, pile 3. It's required that you are true to yourself. And if you step away from the temptation of going into those old patterns and remember how strong you are, because you wouldn't be in this cycle if you weren't strong. You're stronger than the average person. Then you can get through the chaos and you can be surprised how quickly it happens. So I want to ask Spirit for a couple of other sort of supports or information for you from an oracle that connects to trees, so very much grounded energy, spiritual grounded energy. Okay, so firstly, authenticity. Being true to yourself. That's the important thing here. When you're lost, when you're not sure, go into yourself and be true to yourself and pay attention to the energy in your body. You're probably highly kinesthetic. You're probably someone who, on a kind of psychic level, because remember, you are psychic, you feel it in your body probably more than anything else. You'd be the sort of person who had an instinct. You'd feel it physically before somebody rang in either positive or a negative way. Really look into chakras, look into that sort of energy. The more that you do that and the more you connect with that, the more you connect with your own strength. So you will know it, you will feel it, you will feel it. If you studied NLP, you're probably someone, as I say, who's kinesthetic, who says quite often, I feel this, I feel that. It's very, very much part of you, and it's how you connect to your inner knowing and to your psychic ability. So I want to use another oracle for a little bit more sort of general information for you before I close with what might be a sign that you're on the right track. So first of all, a couple more pieces of advice, please, Spirit, for pile 3. Okay. Focus. So focus on who you are, on your authenticity, on the fact that sometimes you feel lost, but that tells you that you're on the right path. Focus on the surprises and so forth. Focus whenever you feel tempted, and breathe. So this again comes back to your body. Meditation, breathe, just breathe in that energy. You know, it's coming into your body. You'd be very good at meditation actually if you're not doing it. You'd be very good at centering and doing it. It'd be very, very natural to you and very, very beneficial. So just to close out, I want to ask Spirit for a sign that could be coming from the animal totems here, or could be coming from your more general spirit guides, that you are on the right track. Oh, this came up with another of the readings as well too. I think it's a really lovely one. Rainbows. I love the sense of optimism around that. You may literally see rainbows more often, or at pivotal times when you're thinking about things, you may see rainbows. It may be literally in the sky. It might be that you see it in a photo or on television or on a video. It may be that you see rainbow colours. It may be that you see fabrics that have lots and lots of colours. There's just a sense of colour and energy and optimism, and I think that's really lovely. And it also suggests the rainbows always come after the rain. So after the difficulty at the beginning, you will start to see the beauty of what you're creating, and you will be surprised. And as I say, in 4 to 5 years, you're going to be a very different person, building all that beauty that is inherent in you anyway, but in a way that also serves you rather than just everybody else. So pile 3, it's not the easiest of readings, I have to say, because it's always hard to realise that maybe you need to recalibrate relationships. But there is so much promise here, and I think so much for you to develop and get with your right tribe and the right people. And I feel really actually very optimistic for you. I think it's going to happen quite quickly. I think this won't be, if this was the right pile for you, then you will know what this is about. You will recognise it, and you're already starting to think about it. You're already on the way. So I wish you well with it, because it's a little bit of a journey, but it's a very, very worthwhile one. I hope that you enjoyed the reading, and if so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you have any comments you'd like to share on this about how it resonates, I'd be fascinated to hear about it in the comments below. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings.